In this video, I'll show you how I paint bases. Whenever I'm painting bases, the first thing I like to do is just take an old brush and base up the rim in the colour that it's going to be. So in this case, we're going to go for a Steel Legion Drab base rim. Like I said, I'm using an old brush. I'm being quite rough, but just make sure I got a nice smooth coverage. The other thing I do as well as the rims, I try and get a little bit of paint on the actual base as well, and that's why you can see I'm being a little bit rough. So just work it all the way through, nice and simple, and get, you're probably gonna need 2 coats, but so I'll do that. I'll do the first one there, do the second one off cam, and come back ready for the next bit. Next up, I'm going to paint any stonework. So for this, I'm using Karak Stone, and again, I'm using an old brush. Being careful when I get close to the the model on the base there. And just popping this on. I'm not being overly careful because I don't really need to be at this stage, because ultimately this is stone, so if the paint does go on a little bit thick, then that's okay, because it just kind of gives the impression of texture. The one place I will kind of take my time a little bit is when I'm kind of going over things for any glyphs or design on there. So when I get this finished off camera, we'll come back and we'll have a look at the next stage. I'm going to use then some Mournfang Brown, a little bit too much on my brush there, just to kind of paint in some of this dirt around the bottom, and you can see I'm kind of stabbing at it a little bit, which is okay. It doesn't matter if it blends with the Karak Stone I've already put down. This is kind of the earth that's been dug up as these structures have fallen, and we'll do quite a bit of work on things like this as we work our way through. The important thing is with this is not to be too tidy. Don't take too long over it, but avoid the plants if you can. Next thing we want to do is take some Space Wolves Grey and use this. This is contrast paint. We're going to use this to cover any of that Karak Stone. Now you may be thinking I've gone absolutely nuts. I haven't. This is it's one of those things that works out all right in the end, but when you first put it on, you think, oh, what the heck is this all about? So what you want to make sure it doesn't pool like it has there. So just pop your brush and then pull it away. Just make sure you cover everything. Be real careful when you're going close to the model that you've finished. You don't want to get this on, particularly if the model's white. You don't really want to get the Space Wolves Grey on there. So do this on all the stonework on the model, and then we'll let that dry fully, and we'll come back for the next bit. Now when that's completely dry, just take some grey Seer, and we're going to dry brush the stone. And those of you who've watched any of my videos before know that I absolutely love using makeup brushes for my dry brushing. I'll put a link to these in the description. They're really cheap, they're nice and soft, and I find them just absolutely fantastic for dry brushing. I think they're better than what I've used in terms of things like, whether it's a Citadel one or whether it's Army Painter. I've always found makeup brushes are just better. And there you can see straight away now you've got a really nice rock colour coming. So let that dry, and we'll just do one more dry brush, and then we'll get on to the plants. The last little dry brush is just with some white scar, just on the kind of top edges. And what I've done here, I've not washed my brush, I've not cleaned it, so it's still got a little bit of that grey Seer in there. You can see that I'm just being really careful. Looks like I've got a nice soft brush. This looks really effective. So yeah, that's the dry brushing done. We'll do the kind of plant life next. Plants are really easy. Just take some Militarum Green contrast paint, just paint it over them like that. make sure that it doesn't pool too much, because you want the contrast paint to do its job and kind of self-highlight. So make sure you get both sides done. Take your time, make sure you don't get it on the rock if you can help it. But if you do, it's not the end of the world. So if I, for example, just stab at the bottom of the rock there, it kind of gives a nice effect. So just get all the plants done with the Militarum Green, and then we're back for we're getting towards the end of getting this base complete now. So as we come to the end of this base, I want to get a little bit of texture on there, and for this I'm using a Agrellan Badland and a Citadel texture spreader tool. So all I'm doing, I'm just again stabbing it on there. And you can see it's quite a bit brighter than the kind of Mournfang Brown, but that's okay, we'll unify it all as we go through. So just get this on all the kind of flat areas of the base, and then make sure it's completely dry before you try and do anything with it. Once that's nice and dry, I like to take some Athonian Camoshade, which is kind of a greeny brown, and just use that to unify the Agrellan Badland and that kind of Mournfang Brown that we painted earlier. We'll do more to unify it in the last step, and this is the last but one step. And so just get it on, spread it out so it's not too concentrated. Make sure you get all the Mournfang Brown, all the Agrellan Badland, and then we'll come back and I'll show you the last step. Make sure it's completely dry before we try and do anything else with it. And the reason we get everything really, really dry is because the last stage is just to gently dry brush some Karak Stone on. There you can see it gives you a really nice earth texture, and you can paint it on that falling over my words. You can paint it over the Mournfang Brown as well, just to unify everything. And there we are. That is how I do bases. That is the base done. If you want to tidy up the edge, you can. If you want to put some grass tufts on, you can. Go wild. But that's how I do my bases. I really hope you've enjoyed. We'll pop them on the turntable next. So there we have it. That's how I do bases. It's really simple, really straightforward, and looks great across an army. I really hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, please leave a like and a comment down below. It really does help me in the channel, and it also helps me make sure that you guys are getting the content that you want to see. Don't forget, with these bases, you can change up any part of it, from the colours, the base rim, the texture paint you use. It really is a blank canvas for you to go wild and do something really spectacular. Thanks again for watching. Don't forget, you can see my recommended equipment and up to 20% off from Goblin Gaming in the description. I'll see you next time.